almost forgot. It's National Poetry Month. Time for Mega Corazón. I'd better get ready. Hey! It's Wordle the Turtle. What's going on, Wordle? Hey! Where are we going? You, sir, are going nowhere. These are not kids. These are big students. They don't like puppets. They like movies and video games and skateboards and each other. But I'll make sure that you are left in good hands. Can somebody please catch Wordle? Whee! Ooh, sorry. Oh well, he's swell. He's got a hard shell. Hello, I am Rhymer the Poet, and welcome to Mega Corazón 2022, a worldwide extravaganza of poetry broadcast all over the planet from right here on the south side of San Antonio, Texas. We hope that you enjoy the following poems because they are made and presented especially for youth.
Hello, my name is Amalia Ortiz, and I am really lucky that I grew up in a house with books. I loved that we had the encyclopedia, and there were some days when I was bored, I would just look through the encyclopedia with pictures, and I don't know, I think about Wikipedia, and it doesn't have the same feeling as holding a book that has all of these exciting pictures, and you can turn pages. But I also grew up in a house of storytellers, and I remember hearing both, I think from a tia and my grandmother told me the story of the devil at the dance. And that was a story that parents would tell their children so that they would learn to obey, that children should not just do whatever they want, especially if a parent says no, they shouldn't do it. So that story is a young girl wants to go to the dance. Her parents say no, so she sneaks out of a window, and at the dance, she dances with the most handsome man there, but then she looks down, and she discovers it's the devil because he has a hoof and a claw. And I think that definitely in South Texas, when people tell that story, it's always a specific place. Like it happened in my hometown, it happened at that cantina. And I remember a specific cantina in La Feria, where I grew up, La Feria, Texas, where my family said that's where the little girl saw the devil at the dance. And so this was my version of it. And it's especially if you grew up in a house of storytellers, I encourage you to write those stories down, and you can write them with your own flair, your own ending. And so this is my story. It's pretty short, but Devil at the Dance. Her papa taught her to never look down. A good dancer engages her partner's gaze, or trustfully rests an ear on a strong shoulder. So by the time she finally noticed the hoof, the claw, tearing up the floor where shiny boots should be, it was too late. She was already in love.
I want to give you an idea, give you a source of how you can write your next poem, so that you don't have to be writing poems all the time, even though they're good, about yourself. So the source is a newspaper. Newspaper is prose, but you can create a poem out of an article in the newspaper, for example. Here's one that I found with the headline, Jesus' statue found in river causes stir in Eagle Pass. So I read the article and I pared it down, selected words and phrases from that article, and here's the poem. Life-size, fiberglass, crucified Christ without a cross, floats on the Rio Grande, gets stuck on a sandbar near Eagle Pass. Thinking it's a body, Border Patrol agents launch a rescue attempt. The life-size Christ gets propped against the two doors in the evidence room does not seem bruised, for 90 days it will be kept as found property. If no one comes to claim the fiberglass Christ without a cross, it will no longer be detained and released as surplus property. The faithful flock, city officials talk about the next stop for the fiberglass Christ. So, the article mentions the Rio Grande, and I just want to mention that on the Mexican side, the Rio Grande is the Rio Bravo. So this is a very good example of how when you kind of have writer's block, don't know what to write next, pick an article. And like a sculptor, carve something out of a block, out of a mass. And that's what prose is in this case. And you will find a poem. So read, 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 and you'll never have to ask or say, I don't know what to write about.
Hello, young poets. My name is Natalia Trevino. I am a teacher at Northwest Vista College. And if you are a writer or a poet, or if you write songs, or even if you doodle little pictures that help you learn, you're a writer. You're an artist. We were all born with something I believe is sacred to every human being, and that is your imagination. And sometimes our imagination is replaced by the imagination of others. And so I want to encourage you to listen. And the first time I heard that, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what to listen to. So I'm going to read a poem today called I Turn to My Rescue. And it is about listening. And I want to ask you to think about, why would I write a poem like this? Why would I write a poem about listening to my cat, who has some words to say in this poem? But we are crowded in our minds with so much input, and I want to encourage you to hear that voice inside of you, to let that voice inside of you touch the page. If you were to have a conversation with someone that you love, a little animal, a friend, a tree, a bird, listen to what they have to say, and you'll surprise yourself. This is I Turn to My Rescue. I turn to my gray rescue cat and ask him if we are ready to write that poem. Long time comin', he says, proceeds with his ritual, nips the succulent dust between his extended, translucent claws, removes the invisible silt, rearranges his fur into swirls. Take it from me, he says, if you are half aware of all that has clung to you, of all that you carry, how it makes you weak, how it makes you pray. You'd scrape your body clean all day too. Use your tongue to untangle all the mess you live with. I turn to my gray rescue, and his wary eyes catch me wondering if it is time to get to the poem now. Are you kidding, he says, his yellow eyes a window full of worries that turn his whole spine into a question mark. The long pink finger of his tongue takes a slow, proud lick down the front of his leg. No injuries today, he says. I am hungry, you are hungry, and there is no poem that's going to fix that problem. I turn to my rescue, who knows there is something regal about just being alive. Ask him if it is time yet for us to do it, together, because there is a poem inside of him. We both know it. Will it be for my son? I say. That's it. The only poem that could ever matter. The cat inspects the glass of water on my desk. He likes the mineral flavor of its rim. He searches out chemicals, small open bottles in my bathroom, as if they are familia. Only licks my cheek after I've moisturized it with chemicals. I suspect before they took him from his mother, before they left him to freeze in the alley off of Summit in Jefferson Heights, that he suckled his mother near the cleaning products, near the Ajax, the bleach. Maybe someone sprayed Clorox or vinegar nearby, mixing the smells that he longs for now, the ones that remind him of his mother, the perfect woman, for a time. What you do with your mouth, he says, is not what I do with mine. Mine is saving my life at all times. I interrupt my rescue. Is it time? Is it time, I ask? He looks at me like I've accused him. Hair over his spine, lifting, a dark crease surfaces into a line along his back. I am not a stigmata, I say, but it's time. My spirit is gone already. I don't have my father anymore. You understand that, right? I never had a father, my cat says, and he stretches his paws into an upward curl and makes a hammock for his own face. He collapses on his side. Let me tell you about love, he says, and you can write this in your book. Love can only be trusted when it's going out the door. That's when you feel it most. That's how you know it's real. Remember how I'd suckle that blanket you gave me, he asks? Soaked it through, chewing and wishing I had my mom again. I don't bother with it anymore, do I? So, love is like money then, I say, and we spend it? Exactly, he says, like the sun does. Spends all its light all the time. Spend, spend, spend. And who's going to cry for it now? And who's going to cry for it when it's gone? So love is always spending, I say, until it explodes? I hate mess, he says. There's a reason I'm so clean. I have a tongue made of hooks to catch it all. Remember that bolt of lightning, he says, that split my elm tree down the middle? Yes, I was devastated, I say. Wrong, he says. Most loving thing that ever happened. That tree there had been looking for a bolt of lightning like that every minute of its life. You're a mean cat, I say. You asked me for this, he tells me, and I knew you couldn't take it. But what will I tell my son now? If you are smart, you will tell him, I am just a cat. But make sure you write a poem about me rescuing you. You didn't rescue me. He'll dig that.
Okay, here's one for you writers out there. Sometimes you feel like, well, you don't have anything to say, but you can write anyway. This is a nonsense poem, what I call a nonsense poem, because it was just writing to create a momentum and hopefully find something along the way. And it's called Do Your Best to Find a Partner. A cynic would say, A gray sky hides the sun, but reveals the rain. In truth, people want assurances, insurance, Mutual of Omaha, Nabisco, corporate logos. Trees receive the rain with arms wide open, also the storms. People's faces light up when they see the one they love, corporate sponsors. But do we recognize anyone but ourselves? Unless we are in a state of enlightenment, then we recognize ourselves in everyone. Create something that people want if you want to participate in the commerce of the world, otherwise, otherworldly, other ways, hypnotic writing, cafe, latte, Pablo Neruda, Garcia Lorca. They wrote in Spanish and French, unless they were dead, and then we make their books out of paper. Stanza 3 starts with a long diatribe to the small wood god of the Norse forests, just outside the Arctic Circle, where Arctic foxes circle, and the moon dances in a wreath of Holocene, human epic, Aurora Borealis. Aurora, a boar, and all of us swing around the tree of life, writing gibberish. Open it up, is the refrain of the young. Open it up again, said the young man to his hot date. Open it up, said the doctor to the heart surgeon. Open it up, said the flower to the bee. So that's what I want to be, a beer, not beer, beer of the Chaldees, these days of Gilgamesh, who was mashed long ago in the sands of Mesopotamia. Yes, it is the same suffix as hippopotamus of the river, erudition, interdiction, arrow, friendly La Marzocco, from the Piazza del Rim. Say whatever you like. What comes into your mouth next, it is from the divine. It is heaven sent. It is just for you. Everything is just for you.
Hi, my name is Eddie Vega, and I'm a poet here in San Antonio, Texas. This poem is one that's not actually by myself, but it's by one of my poetic heroes, Trinidad Sanchez Jr., who lived here in San Antonio for some time after being here from Albuquerque, Denver, and where he was from back in Michigan. And he writes a lot about our culture, our cultura, and this is one of his most famous, prized poems. Why Am I So Brown? For Raquel Guerrero. A question Chicanitas sometimes ask while others wonder, why is the sky blue or the grass green? Why am I so brown? God made you brown, mija, color bronce of your raza, connecting you to your raíces, your story, historia, as you begin moving towards your future. God made you brown, mija, color bronce, beautiful, strong, reminded you of the goodness de tu mamá, de tus abuelas y tus antepasados. God made you brown, mija, to wear as a crown, for you are royalty, a princess, la raza nueva, the people of the sun. It is the color of Chicana women, leaders, madres of Chicano warriors, luchando por la paz y la dignidad, de la justicia de la nación Aztlán. God wants you to know, to understand that brown is not a color. It is a state of being, a very human texture, alive and full of songs, celebrating, dancing to the new world, which is for everyone. Finally, mija, God made you brown because it is one of her favorite colors.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony, the poet, and I'm very, very happy to be here at Mega Corazón 2022 with you guys once again. I write a lot about food and my culture in San Antonio, Texas, and I like to share that with all the world as much as I can. So here goes a little fun stuff for everybody. It might sound a little bit sad to some of you because it is tragic, so I hope you don't mind me starting off with a tragic moment like this. This is called I Want Guacamole on My Taco. Do you really call that adding guacamole to my taco? It's more like you're subtracting from the inherent faith I had in you and in humankind. I come from a very long line of great and ancient poetic and mathematical minds, and so I know how to carefully weigh the fairness of my words, and therefore I say this only because you charged me an extra $1.50. I ordered guacamole, not guacamo, not guaca, not guac, not gua. I do see a little speck of bright green in there, I think, but I'm not in the mood to take out my magnifying glass. I'm not usually one to complain, but I would like to see and to taste every single delicious avocadic syllable. Please do not give me gua or guac or guacamo. I want guacamole on my taco.
Hello, my name is Marisol Cortez. I'm a poet and a writer here in San Antonio, Texas. And I wanted to start with a poem. It's kind of on the lighter side for the youth audience, and it's a poem about birds. It comes from a little chapbook that I put together a couple years ago called Words for Birds 2020, Poetics for Pandemics. Words for Birds is an event that happens every National Poetry Month for a number of years, like a decade. And of course, when the pandemic hit a couple years ago, all of the events moved either online or they got canceled. But rather than do a virtual event, I thought it would be a cool idea to put together a little book, right? Because if you think about it, a book is actually kind of the most archaic, analog kind of virtual event that it's like the original virtual event, right? So this is a poem about grackles. I have a lot of poems about grackles, and I try to read one every year at Mega Corazón. And it's a poem called Conservation Status, Least Concern. James Brush, an Austin writer, and a good one at that, already has a little book of poems entirely about grackles and vultures. Birds Nobody Loves, it's called. Still, once, I saw a grackle fly off with a whole thing of chips in its mouth, says Azra, who, when a littler kid than he is now, told me he'd want a grackle as a pet, if only it weren't illegal. Why would it be illegal? I asked, thinking it must be because grackles deserve their freedom. But no, it's because you can train a grackle to steal, he said, then got mad when I laughed and tried to stop myself from laughing, but laughed all the more. And so I must add these lines to my own growing pile of grackle poems. Conservation status, least concern, is what Wikipedia reports Quizcalis mexicanus has been assigned by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, on a 7-point scale from extinct to abundant, abbreviated LC, inside a little green circle meaning, Still, once. Above our heads, as we walked back from Azra's dad's house to ours, we saw 2 great-tailed grackles explode across the sky, scattered by a hawk or falcon diving for its dinner. They escaped, metallic beaks emitting their rasping robot screeches, and with them, I am sure, a meteor shower of hot flaming Cheeto crumbs as well. Ordinarily imperturbable, these grackles were clearly upset, though what a majestic marvel of a domestic drama it was to see it unfold up close above our barrio sidewalk. Which is not to suggest that nearly becoming falcon food merits an upgrade in international concern for the conservation of grackles. It was just kind of cool, is why I'm telling you.
I'm going to read a poem by Carrie Fountain from her new book called The Life. And I really like this book, so I figured you would like it too. And the poem is called Poem on the Inside. Writing in the silent part of morning, before the baby and his toys wake up and begin their strange chatter, the lawnmower's insipid giggle, the cell phone's hello and goodbye. The only sound now is that of the cat licking its fur behind me on the bed. In the short time after we bought this house, but before we moved into it, I would sometimes drive by. I would stop. I'll park in the carport and sneak around back, and I'll squint into the windows, almost certain I knew what our lives would be like once we lived inside.
Hello, my name is Nate Zen. I go by Nate Zen. I am a spoken word poet here in San Antonio. The next poem I will be doing for you is actually a poem by a author that I enjoy, poet that I love, Shel Silverstein. I'm currently working on a kid's book myself, so I thought I'd share some of that love to you guys. I read this to my kids every night. They love this one. Zebra Questions. I asked the zebra, "Are you black with white stripes, or are you white with black stripes?" And the zebra asked me, "Are you good with bad habits, or are you bad with good habits? Are you noisy with quiet times, or are you quiet with noisy times? Are you happy with some sad days, or are you sad with some happy days? Are you neat with some sloppy ways, or are you sloppy with some neat ways?" And on and on and on and on and on he went. And I'll never ask a zebra about his stripes again.
Hello, my name is Frances Santos. I am a San Antonio poet. Born and raised here in San Antonio, and I've been teaching in the San Antonio School District for a very long time, over 25 years. Poem I'd like to share with students today, middle school, high school, elementary school. Students is a poem about my father, who was born in the valley, in the Rio Grande Valley. And my grandfather was born in Tamaulipas, Mexico. And they came over in 1917, I think, during the Mexican Revolution. And I think it's very important that at some point everyone, poet, non-poet, writer, non-writer, but that everyone sits down with themselves and their memories, their memory of who they are and what they have done and who they have known within their family, and write about it. Everyone has a very important story to tell. It's important that we know these stories and that people hear them. And so I encourage all the students who are looking at this today to write the story of your life. Start with your parents, start with your elders, your neighbors, your tíos, your tías, your primos, your primas, and keep the stories going always. And this poem is called Born Here. A little bit of the title, I'm going to say, because my father was very proud of the fact that he was born in the United States. He's very proud of that. Whereas my grandfather was born in Tamaulipas. And my father always made a point of saying, I was born here, I was born here. And so this poem is called Born Here. My father always said those words. Born of the prickly cotton blossom, placenta planted in lush soil, tiller and picker of fields, tomato, onion, garlic, chili piquin, swirling, frying in bacon, salsa roja on the table. Third in a family of 12, skin reddened by glare and sun, marksmen of rabbits, squirrels, paloma in the fields. Dinner is served. My father says, you know, both your grandmothers, they were born here. Your mother and I, we were born here. I was born here, he tells me. He tells me this in English because we didn't speak Spanish in our house. We were born here. In fact, you're a third-generation Texan, he tells me, as he flips Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues and lights another cigarette. He was a political scientist of the backyard hi-fi. He was a chain smoker of menthol cigarettes. He was husband to one wife, father to 3 children. He was born of the prickly cotton blossom, and he was baptized with the waters of the Rio Grande.
In solidarity with the brave people of the Ukraine, I've selected a poem by Ludmila Kershanska. That's L-U-Y-D-M-Y-L-A. Ludmila, K-H-E-R-O-N-E-R-S-O-N-S-K-A. Ludmila Kershanska. Her poem is The Whole Soldier Doesn't Suffer. The whole soldier doesn't suffer. It's just the legs, the arms, just blowing snow, just meager rain. The whole soldier shrugs off hurt. It's just missile systems, hail and beach, just bullets on the wing, just happiness ahead, just meteorological pogroms, Geoherostratos wannabes, just the girl with the pointer poking the map in the stomach, just thunder, lightning, just dreadful losses, just the day with a dented helmet, just God who doesn't protect.
This poem is for all the little girls out there who haven't yet found out how fierce they are. What is it about little girls that is so terrifying, you know? Like the ghosts of little girls in scary movies and hallways, by all intent and purposes, I shouldn't be afraid because I could take a little girl. I could break a little girl. I could literally pick up and shake a little girl. Hey, I bet that's what you thought when you first saw me. Thought, dang, she's small, but she sure is scary. We better snatch her up quick before her own imagination turns her bad. But I'm beginning to get my imagination back. Imagine that. Imagine a world where anything I can imagine I can have. I'd imagine that makes you a little bit nervous. Imagine me summoning demons on purpose. You stole my innocence. Now I want it back. Give me my laugh. Why does it send a chill down your spine every time I giggle like that? Every time I grin? Do my dead eyes get under your skin? And why can't you stop staring? Is your heart not racing? Are those words that you said to me not worth tasting? I want to play a game. How about everything you've ever said to me, I say right back? Oh, you don't like that? Aw, let me speak a little louder for the folks in the back. Ha ha ha, your face is doing that thing where it gets real mad. I guess that's how it looks when you flash back to when I was a little girl and you were big and bad. But what about a little girl made you so mad? I guess you were scared of the power I had. You stole it in my sleep. But I woke up. I want it back. I will no longer go silently into the void, but you don't want to hear it, and you're getting annoyed, and I'm like a little girl, dressed in all white, standing in your backyard in the middle of the night. And I don't even move when you shine the light. You're scared I might jump up and give you a fright. You're so scared of my singing. You're scared of my voice. You're so scared you don't even dare make a noise. You're so scared you're yelling, you give me no choice. If you keep on existing, I'll call all the boys and I'll call the cops and I'll call your mom and she'll tell you to stop. But then you remember, my mother's never home. How else would I end up in your backyard all alone? After all, I'm just a child, searching for a safe space. Well, you took your aim and pulled your trigger, just in case, but I survived every shot with just one single thought that your choices can't make me into something I'm not, 'cause you're just a coward. Children aren't scary. Little girls are precious and need to be cherished, and it's not my fault that you did what you did when I was just a child and you were a grown person. But you better watch out. Change your number, lock your door, 'cause that little girl you used to mess around with, she's not so little anymore.
I come from the west side barrios of San Antonio, where the paleta wagon's going down the street, the chamaquitos are playing baseball out in the street, all ages mixed together, no leagues, no rules, everybody letting everybody play. And the tortilleria was just a block away. The tortilleria, where an ancient woman made corn tortillas, and the smell would fill the air. And for me, it wasn't just about the food. It wasn't just something we ate and we had and that nurtured us. It was our history. Because when I smelled those corn tortillas being made by hand at the tortilleria, I knew that those tortillas had been being eaten on this continent for the last 7,000 years. This wasn't just food. It was my history. It was my ancestors talking to me, saying, vamos a hacer unas tortillitas to keep you strong, to keep you knowing where you came from and what will keep you going into the future. So I'm going to read you a little tiny poem that has great significance for me about the tortilleria on San Luis Street, not too far from my grandparents' house. And it goes like this. Allí, por la calle San Luis. West Side, corn tortillas for a penny each, made by an ancient woman and her mother, cooked on the home black of a flat stove, flipped to slap the birth awake, wrapped by corn hands. Toasted morning light and dancing history. Earth gives birth to corn, which gives birth to humans, which gives birth to earth. Corn tortillas, penny each, no tax.
I am Batman. I am Batman. I am I'm Peter Parker. No, I'm Peter Parker. No, I'm the third Peter Parker. Hey, y'all should stop sneaking up on people like that. You know, that's how I lost my tooth. Someone startled me and it just popped straight out of my mouth. But yeah, I wasn't doing the Batman Spider-Man thing in the mirror. I was reading Love in the Time of Cholos by Eddie Vega. I was reading Amalia Ortiz. I was reading Rooster Martinez. I was reading Wendy Okay, I was doing the Batman Spider-Man thing in the mirror. But now is the perfect time for me to remind you that I am Rhymer the Poet and that this is National Poetry Month. So, as often as you can, write every movie that you love, every comic book that you love, every well-made TikTok, every video game that you like begins with an idea that is written down. So write. They should write. They say yes. Exit. Stage left. No, I think stage right. Don't forget to write.
Hi, my name is Eddie Vega, and I wrote this poem after going to the dinosaur tracks at Government Canyon with my kids some years ago. I was inspired to write about why there might be dinosaur tracks that still exist after 110 million years. Those guys were so Cretaceous, leaving their marks on an ancient shoreline. Paleontologists all say that some Acrocanthosaurus was walking on the beach when it made those footprints. But I think those educated vatos got it all wrong. There's only one reason why somebody in San Antonio would be making footprints that still show up after 110 million years. They were standing in line for barbacoa. No, for real. Those Acrocans, the first Texicans, slow-moving beasts tired of hunting Barney and Yoshi and Littlefoot day after day in the Texas heat, were thrilled when Iguana Don Pedro and Iguana Doña Chencha dug up the most enormous, humongous, dinosaurious pit and set up the Alamosaurus Barbacoas Company on the far, far, far west side. I mean, only open on Saturday and Sunday, of course. What self-respecting theropod doesn't appreciate a slow-roasted sauropod? But they had to get there early, be the Theo Dino that stands in line at the crack of dawn for his family to get the all-meat special and an acre-foot or two of that big red water that bubbled up from the spring. They had to eat it with their hands, of course, because tortillas hadn't been invented yet. But if they got there late, olvídalo. The Quetzalcoatlus would swoop in around noon and take up whatever was left on the mesa. So the Acrocans, the first Texicans, planted their feet, looked over cliff sides of sea sprays painted with rainwater, and while smelling that sweet scent of a slow roasted theropod, igniting a 110 million year tradition. Olvídalo, because those vatos were so Cretaceous.
This next piece that I'm going to do is actually a tips for young writers poem performance that I was asked to write by some educators here in the city to maybe get kids involved in writing and maybe submit to writing and poetry contests in order to get their classes more involved in reading, writing, literacy, and editing, all those cool things that go along with making poetry. So hopefully you'll find this fun. These are tips for young writers. Tip number 1, do not take tips from any other poets offering tips on how to write better poetry unless it's me. Most of those other tips are like the tips of icebergs, while mine are like the 90% of the iceberg submerged beneath the ocean waters. Tip number 2, please ignore tip number 1. I don't know what I was talking about. Tip number 3, please reconsider tip number 1 because sometimes the best part of a good poem hides from casual observation. Tip number 4, have fun when you write. Writing poetry should give you a sense of enjoyment, at least until you become a serious poet, when your poetry might well become like a somber, sorrowful, and sad creature whose misery somehow brings joy to other people. Until then, wreck 100 journals or two with complete abandon and delight. Tip number 5, you are not an I am poem. Say it to yourself, I am not an I am poem. Although it's okay to be temporarily. If a teacher or parent hands you a form poem with a few spaces left blank for you to fill in with your own words, this will not always result in a poem. Use exercises like these, however, to bring you yet another step closer to writing your own cool stuff. Stay true to yourself, be original, remain unique. Dang, that sounds like I just signed the back of your yearbook. Tip number 6, finish strong. I can't tell you how often my fellow judges of youth poetry contests have been wowed stanza after stanza after stanza in a piece, and then it's like aliens had abducted the last few lines and replaced them with something like, then the unicorn licked the lollipop and it exploded. What the heck? That poem wasn't about unicorns or lollipops or explosions. What happened? Get us from the get-go with your powerful words. Keep us throughout and finish strong with sustained and creative energy. Tip number 7, edit your poem and edit your poem and edit your poem. Find better words to use. Read it out loud to a friend. Read it to yourself in a mirror. Put it away for a few days and then read it again, like an artist who comes back to her painting with new eyes. Trust me, well-edited poems stand out like double suns above the light of the others. Tip number 8, read to write better. A professor of mine once said you should read at least 100 words for every word you write in order to become a better writer. I thank you for your time in these difficult times. Remember to have fun when you write. And even though life is strange and confusing and lonely and painful right now, remember that poetry has a healing component that will help us all get through this whole mess. Also, remember to be an iceberg. Keep your head above water and the rest of yourself submerged beneath the ocean. That way, they'll never know what hit them. And that really doesn't make any sense either. Iceberg. Maybe I was just thinking about lettuce.
Hello, my name is Jessica Tilton Zertuche. I'm a poet in San Antonio, Texas. I've been doing poetry for the past decade and even longer than that when I was younger. I love poetry and I think it's so important for us as a community to continue the legacy of doing poetry, especially in the youth, because it gives us the opportunity to create our own truth by taking elements of truth from the world and mosaic them together and create our own beautiful work of art that we can share with the world. And it's so important. This first poem I'm going to do is called Apology. This is an apology for the generations who will come after me. I'd like to apologize to the generations who will come after me. I'm sorry for the lack of attention this world will bring to the intricate details that compose your individuality. I'm sorry for the lack of prevention for the times you failed so you think it's your fault, and that's just reality. I'm sorry for the lack of dimension this world has, so instead of being deep to fit, be flat and have a shallow personality. I'm sorry that people will be more interested in your waist size than your mind's eye, or your bank prize than your good time, and they'll say, don't come inside if you're not dressed right. We'll have your clothes stitched real tight and your mind sewn just right before any insight slips inside. And I'm sorry if nobody takes the time out of their busy 9 to 5 to remind you that you're beautiful, to tell you that you're usable, to ensure you that this is doable. And I'm sorry if you're afraid just like the rest of us. I'm sorry, it's so normal to let this world get the best of us, but we keep confusing interaction with the internet and substituting nature for television. To know the truth about religion, you will have to be enlightened, and I'm sorry, that's a service that this world is not providing. You're growing up when hip-hop is dead and rock and roll is long gone, so you listen to crap when the radio turns on, and I'm sorry that you'll probably eat more McDonald's than you will vegetables and spend more time at Walmart than you will with your real father. I'm sorry to the sons and all of the daughters who found a simple girl in several ways to complicate her, and all the boys who got employed just so they could try to date her. They won't become famous for being a teacher or a doctor, and they'll have to be a liar if they want to be a lawyer. Please excuse the limitations in this world made up of borders. I'm sorry that we all live in boxes and pay taxes, and we're constantly working towards tomorrow's happinesses. I'm sorry we live in a world being ruled by a piece of paper. But you can't do nothing without that piece of paper, man, and I'm sorry that no one will give you a plan or hold your hand, and girls learn to shake their butt before they learn how to stand up for themselves. And men are too concerned about money and wealth to give you any help, so one day you'll probably put your dreams on the shelf and throw your hopes in a closet. But listen to me before you close that door and lock it. You're beautiful. You're funny. You're talented, inspired, and I'm sorry if this poem cannot show you your own fire, but you are the sun. You are the earth, and a miracle happened on the day of your birth.
Hello, my name is Amalia Ortiz, and I want to share with you a poem called Rabbit is Up to Tricks by Joy Harjo. Now, in many native cultures and in their folklore, the rabbit is known as a trickster character, and that's true in this poem. Rabbit is up to tricks. In a world long before this one, there was enough for everyone until somebody got out of line. We heard it was Rabbit, fooling around with clay and the wind. Everybody was tired of his tricks and no one would play with him. He was lonely in this world. So Rabbit thought to make a person. And when he blew into the mouth of that crude figure to see what would happen, the clay man stood up. Rabbit showed the clay man how to steal a chicken. The clay man obeyed. Then he showed him how to steal someone's wife. The clay man obeyed. Rabbit felt important and powerful. The clay man felt important and powerful. And once that clay man started, he could not stop. Once he took that chicken, he wanted all the chickens. And once he took that corn, he wanted all the corn. And once he took that wife, he wanted all the wives. He was insatiable. Then he had a taste of gold, and he wanted all the gold. Then it was land and anything else he saw. His wanting only made him want more. Soon it was countries, and then it was trade. The wanting infected the earth. We lost track of the purpose and reason for life. We began to forget songs. We forgot our stories. We could no longer see or hear our ancestors or talk with each other across the kitchen table. Forests were being mowed down all over the world, and Rabbit had no place to play. Rabbit's trick had backfired. Rabbit tried to call the clay man back, but when the clay man wouldn't listen, Rabbit realized he made a clay man with no ears.
Greetings. I hope you're still feeling good and enjoying Mega Corazón. I'm going to do a piece now that is a dedication to Maya Angelou. She had an album and she did calypso and danced and sang, and I just love her to pieces. So this piece is dedicated to Maya. It makes me feel good that poetry makes me want to dance. I never knew God was a ventriloquist until the first time your lips parted within my range of vibration. Ribbons of prismatic beauty began flowing from your soft-spoken conversation as all the sequestered seraphim hushed from their hallelujahs and adamantly took heed. The universe inclined itself, brimming from anticipation on bended knee, thirsting for living waters to spring. You then proceeded with ancient dialogue, sung out with a contemporary citrus twist. You sat and unraveled truth from gray coils of hair, entwined within each gentle wisp. You were perched there, looking regal in your chair, sharing sacred jewels and spools of golden thread. And I began to wonder, were there mystic philosophers trapped inside of your head, whispering mantras and enchantment in glowing chromatic beads? You laid out strands and strings, bare from breath to breath, shook my soul till nothing was left but awestruck silence. Violets and blue indigos created a spectrum of Crayola colors, painted so intentional. Syllable after syllable, you let loose a rainbow, parted my cumulus clouds of ignorance. And if we could crack the sky wide open, we'd see God's mouth moving a pantomime of rhythm to your tongue and cheeks. You were his mouthpiece when the grasp of understanding was too far beyond our reach. Maya, you kept all of God's secrets until you were told to speak. You clutched his wisdoms until we heard your words, and you were commanded to teach. You were a modern day disciple, and the arts were your medium of speech. Miss Calypso, may I call you queen? You mamboed your way into our minds, speaking the mother tongue of many lands. With a red dress shimmy, you became the saffron in the summer breeze, the coconut milk in our rice and peas, the effervescent pooling of water stirred in the belly of gospel. Your impact on literature is so colossal. History pages will forever whisper your name as an apostle of prose, of lyric, and of psalm. From the heavens to the earth, your legacy lives on. You live on.
Hi, my name is Octavio Quintanilla, former Poet Laureate of San Antonio, 2018-2020. I'm just happy to be here to read some poems to you. And the first poem I'm going to read is a lipogram. A lipogram is a type of poem where the poet intentionally doesn't use a letter from the alphabet. In my case, I decided not to use the letter A, so you won't hear the letter A in the poem. Country of words. When without hope, doves unfold like mist over the open fields, I know I'm still the fire trying to burn the word loss on this document. Some of us will utter songs of grief, clench them between teeth to remind us how deep we feel, how worthless our loveliness. This document is not a poem, but it is here in this moment, words rising to christen this new country formed by this listening between you and I, between bygones and the offing, between the living and the cold. Don't worry. When doves unfold like mist over the open fields, their wings bright with hope, I know you're listening to my voice. I know you're burning the wood of your beloved tree, the one with the sweet flower, the one you love so much, to welcome me home.
Yep, here we go.
A magician before birth, you entered my dreams, foretelling the force of your appearance, a true natural act of God. Sleeping, I wasn't prepared, fashioning a shoebox and towel into your first bed and blanket. And true to premonition, you pushed your way up while midwife wrestled with gloves and bustling nurses prepared a warm bed and lamp for your entrance. I was solid, yet quaking, like the earth cracking under the shifts of heat, and at the core of my being you rumbled and moved, forceful magma rocking the depths of the ocean into a tsunami. And I knew who I was for a moment, ancient and brand new, never again and always been, like the transformation of a new star from a nebula already bright. You rushed forth from the deep, still liquid somehow, like lava cooling, an unexpected miracle, like a burning diamond newly transformed from humble coal. Shock and fusion at the formation, soft, splitting the sky with screams, an alarm that everything had changed in one moment, like the decimated landscape of a shore after the massive waves have washed away and settled into a soft, soft sound of rhythmic beating. Your breathing in a chest mafic rock solid, so dense I could barely carry you. The taste of iron in my mouth as I stared in amazement at the stargazer in my hands. The purest intention of my being from the deepest ocean of my dreaming.
It feels like okay. It feels high, right? You feel like gravity? Yes. That's called gravity.
Hello, young poets. Hello, young writers. Hello, young artists, musicians, all of you creative listeners out there. There's a lot that's been happening in our world, a lot of sad things, and it's coming at you. And one of the favorite things for people to say to comfort each other is, I'll pray for you, or our thoughts and prayers are with you. But what does that mean, really? Well, take a pen and think about that. Think about what prayer means to you or what those thoughts might be and how they could help. If not the person who is hurting, you who is listening, who is empathetic, who is born with compassion. I study the Virgin Mary a lot, and I've written poems in response to a prayer circle that is studying the 7 Sorrows of Mary. And someone told me, well, if you pray the 7 Sorrows of Mary, it's like, bam, miracles can happen. So I need a miracle. I think our whole world needs miracles. And I'll show you what this prayer looks like. So the first sorrow of Mary is the prophecy of Simon talking to Mary at the birth. And he predicts what was going to happen to her child. And part of the language of that is, and a sword will pierce through your own soul. Also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Revealed like the surface of a dog's freckled tongue as she pants under the sun, like the pink silk lilt of it undulated to hold one drop of water at a time. Her open maw, harmless, but still its sharp, enameled points could open a body should she want to. And for what so much revealing, Simon? Why use the sword, the words, thoughts of many hearts, to frighten Mary that day? Those sharp enameled points, logical weapon for self-loathing, turned to someone else's body, the one who encourages reflection on sin, unlocking the desire to open a body to reveal the slow matter of its decay on a bus, on a curb, on a cross, a desire that brings every mother her first sorrow, the first time she holds her child's tender body. And if I pray this right, I am to remember that I too pierce her soul. The pink silk lilt of her, the fullness of her grace, the moment she knew the future end of her child, that he would die this particular way, newborn, and her body still a seething wound, wash rag between her legs to hold the holy ruby of her new life, the shimmering and ripped womb foretelling the luster inside the hearts of many. The crowds call for burn, for blood and ash, the revelation of her son's unfolding skins. The latent prowlers, haunched for years, kill in their sights their desire to chew. The tart blood, the knee, its steady pressure on someone's neck, the insatiable want of easy answers. The state as the heart of the people with its blood-soaked hands.
Hello. Very happy to be here at Mega Corazón once again. And we are all coming out of a very difficult time, and we're all dealing with it in our own particular ways. But this is just my way of having dealt with it. When this whole crazy time started, I was the one in charge of having to go get supplies and forage all over the city when there was nothing available. And in order to keep my sanity, I had to make a game out of it. Like I was hunting, like I was going on a scavenger hunt. And when there was nothing around, I was trying not to get myself down. I just kept looking for it, and I tried to keep as much humor in my life and to find as much humor in those very difficult moments as I could. So I wrote a lot of funny stuff, or what I think is funny stuff, during the pandemic. This is one of them. This is called Toilet Paper. Trust me, you will find that big package of toilet paper. And when you do, here are a few tips to truly enjoy the experience. If you are not in the process of either being trampled or glared to death, take the time to listen to that sky-splitting, light bursting from the clouds, Alleluia moment. Take the crinkly package in your hands and sincerely talk to it. Say something funny or romantically spontaneous, no matter how absurd it is. Say to those 12 mega rolls of ultra soft Carmen something like, "Yes, I've been a very dirty boy," or "I've been looking for you in every crack and crevice of the city, my love. Why don't we go somewhere quiet and sit down and get to know each other a little better?" Do not scream, and do not yell, and do not do the leaping side scissors in midair with your legs as you run down the aisle at H-E-B. Go straight to the register and stand there quietly and reverently and be silently humble and grateful for a few moments. On the way home, say hello to the trees as you pass them by on the road. Tell them thank you. Say that once this whole thing is over, you're going to plant a few of them. Maybe start a garden, recycle more diligently, and do whatever it takes so that we don't find ourselves in this kind of a mess again, no matter how absurd it is.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marisol Cortez. I am a poet here in San Antonio, and I'm a prose writer, a writer. I'm really glad to be here for Mega Corazón and to be able to be part of this youth portion in particular. I wanted to read a poem that is very short, it's very simple in a lot of ways, but it's also heavy. It's a heavy topic. It's heavy on my heart right now. And I know it's heavy on a lot of people's hearts right now, both young people and their families. But I thought it was important to read, especially for middle school and high school students, and especially for those students who are trans, LGBT, queer, gay, lesbian, because I want you to know that no matter what's going on right now, you know, in the state of Texas, you are loved, you are sacred, and you have a community of support behind you, fighting for you to have the right to be who you are. And so this is a poem that's called Don't Want to Tell. I don't want to tell my 14-year-old that the Texas ledge has him in its sights, and me, and anyone who listens to who trans kids say they are, threatening to take our children away for seeking health care. As if tea was a thing we could even afford. Y'all just posturing, playing culture war footsie with your base, flexing, terrorizing kids, per usual. In the news, I see reports of parents who say they will leave Texas if these laws get passed. But this is our home. Why should we have to leave it because of jackholes? Listen, we're not leaving. They should leave, actually.
San Antonio, being such an old place, is full of treasured destinations, places where, as kids, we would gather and with families and friends, either for dances or parties or fiestas. And there was one such place that was legendary in San Antonio's west side called La Gloria. And it was a treasured destination for dancing and for hanging out. There was a tire repair shop conveniently located on the premises. And for many years, it was just a place where a lot of San Antonio raza found relief from the rigors of the ordinary world. And there was a big struggle many years back now around a plan to demolish the place called La Gloria. And a struggle that was ultimately lost, and in fact it was demolished. And this is a little piece about the demolition of heaven. La Gloria, number 3. The people of San Quilmas danced beneath the sultry stars of an American night. The Coahuiltecas had danced here, the Payaya, the Tejas, the Comecrudos, and how many before them? And they continued to do so into the time of the first settlement of the Españoles, of all the successive sons of the Presidio, the Villa, the missions, the Condado de Béjar, and the fraught emergence of a modern American city. Las Majas danced there. The Suaves y Pachucos Brutísimos also, alongside all the others, finding their place in whatever trappings and ways they could afford in the streets of the new republic. They danced to conjure visions of who they might become through the leaping steps of the Lindy swing, the angular jitterbug jive, the cumbia awakening, and the eternal tacuachito of the South Texas night. Through the ages, they continued to dance entre la tierra y la gloria. Built in 1928, directed by Doña Matilde Elizondo, La Gloria number 3 was an evolutionary leap in the rascuache aesthetic of San Antonio's incomparable mestizo regionalism. But as a roofed plaza decorated with vaulting Palladian arches at the corner of Laredito and Brazos, it was among the first gas stations with buried tanks on the west side. There was also an auto repair shop and a bakery and a silent movie parlor, all of which had to be followed by a rooftop dance garden where the dance of ages could continue. More than 70 years later, when La Gloria number 3 had been abandoned already for years, Doña Matilde's granddaughter circumambulated the building on the eve of its destruction, burning incense, saying, "My dream is to see it restored to its original glory, to see the dances under the stars happening again." But when the bulldozers and excavators arrived in the morning, their scoops and buckets tore away at the walls of memory, throwing up great clouds of dust, until the central pillars buckled and the long floor of the rooftop garden kneeled first and then fell in one swoop to the ground. Among the aghast onlookers, someone shouted, "If you take away our history, you take away our lives."
The Partners Program at Gemini Inc. sends me to the Juvenile Detention Center each year and has for the last 10 years to work with the students there, ages 12 to 17. And each year Gemini produces a book. This is work from What I Carry, the most recent book. I love the fact that the title, What I Carry, in a certain way echoes the title of Amanda Gorman's book, but that's just my small smile. This is a poem by Joe B. called Where Does Hatred Come From? It comes as a result of my showing them the work City One by Vincent Valdez, the painting of the Ku Klux Klan that for a portion of time the Blanton took off the wall because they were getting threats about it, but they put it back. This is Where Does Hatred Come From by Joe B. Where hatred comes from is deep down. So far, I forgot where it started. I still have it in me. It doesn't leave. It just goes back down and comes up when it pleases.
This is called the Spider Poem. If a spider falls into your sink and survives, do you think later on in his spider life, when he's going through a hard spider time, his wife passes away and his spider kids cry, he draws strength from that time when he almost died in your sink, and he thinks with his spider mind, this will all pass in spider time. It's okay. It's going to be spider fine.
Hello. Today I want to introduce you to, or perhaps you already know, but just to kind of remind you that there's all kinds of ways in which you be inspired, especially when you get writer's block. So this is the ekphrastic poem, which is a description of a scene, or it could be an art piece, any work of art. And through your imagination, your narration, your reflection on that image, you will be inspired to write something you hadn't written before. So here's my example of one of my favorite photographers. He was a photographer for the 1930s and 40s, and then he moved to Austin, Texas. His name is Russell Lee. And one of the photos that's one of my favorites is Shoeshine Boy, San Antonio, Texas, 1949. Mexican shoeshine boy around 10 years old. White tee, high-waisted, baggy pants. Thin chained around his neck. He stands outside a downtown San Antonio theater in front of a movie poster. Reads a newspaper very intently. His lips are pursed. A lock of jet black hair dangles over his forehead. His homemade shoeshine box, made from wood, hangs from his right shoulder. He probably used his black shoe polish applicator to scrawl a large 10 cents on the side of his box. 10 cents. In 1949, the minimum hourly wage is 75 cents. The movie poster announces sealed verdict, an espionage film starring Ray Millan. Splashed across the poster are the Spanish words, Hoy, doble programa, double feature, today. On January the 30th, 1949, 4.7 inches of snow fell in San Antonio. I wonder if the shoeshine boy tried to make a snowman. So there's a piece of writing I hadn't done until I saw this photo, and so that's all it takes. Looking at a piece of art, can be any image, and you can first start by just describing it, and you do that, and you come back, look at it, and you can add some other details, maybe do a little research, like what was happening in 1949, and that's how I discovered that we had a snowfall in San Antonio on January the 30th, exactly 4.7 inches of snow. And the minimum wage in 1949 was 75 cents. So I encourage you to look at artwork, look at any photos, images, and respond to that image. Let it inspire you, and you have another poem in your collection.
While Mr. Reimer's getting a snack, I want to share with you a short video of one of the most important artists and poets San Antonio has ever had, Angela de Hoyos. She was a writer, a poet, a playwright, a publisher, and an editor, and she and her husband helped create the modern poetry art scene in San Antonio by hosting Sunday afternoon barbecues in which young artists and musicians could try out their works. Many of these artists and musicians have gone on to have careers in the arts. We found a 1994 video of Angela conducting a workshop at Gus Garcia Middle School. You can tell from her words how much she loved working with young people. And her impact on young poets in San Antonio is immense. So let's enjoy Angela de Hoyos.
Thank you, newcomers, for being with us today. I'm going to read a poem that was inspired by a t-shirt I saw that says, stick it to you. Obviously, that is an aggressive message, but then again, it can be taken in various ways. It was also in conjunction, I would say, with the movie American Me, and the poem is dedicated in homage to Edward James Olmos. I'm sure you all are familiar with his other work, like Stand Up and Deliver, and the Ballad of Gregorio Cortés. And his work in the American Me, I think one of the things that the movie was trying to say is that we are living in a, so to speak, oppressive society, and in various ways. And I think what happens is that sometimes we go in the wrong direction, and then that's how all of these other things happen. We get involved in gangs, and there's nothing wrong with gangs, but when gangs turn to violence and all these other things that aren't conducive to living a productive life, that's what happens. I also use a quote from a poem by Raúl R. Salinas. His poem is La Loma, and it appears in his book, Un Trip Through the Mind Jail y Otras Excursions. And this poem is entitled Beyond the Mask. Quote from Raúl R. Salinas. Aren't we all guilty? Stick it to you. The blood-red message emblazoned on the teenage delinquent's t-shirt proclaims, flaunting his ill-defined contempt, his arrogance, his defiance, his grand machine status, his undisputed ability to outsmart the gang. But beyond that hard mask of his face, his tender, fuzzy-lipped insecurity, immaturity, his wounded animal response vis-a-vis society in general. Stick it to you. And the next person he holds up in a pitch-black hole of a parking lot turns out to be his own single parent working the graveyard shift, mother.
Who was it that said that no matter how big a fool I might seem, I'm gonna walk through this world of mine like I was flying in a dream? Let's see. Oh wait, that was me. Just a little bit of poetry in celebration of National Poetry Month as we go through Mega Corazón 2022. We hope that you are enjoying these poets because they have come together especially for you.
The Partners Program at Gemini Inc. sends me out to the Juvenile Detention Center each year to work with the students in writing poetry. And each year, for the last 10 years now, Gemini produces a volume of the work by those students. This is work from the most recent volume called What I Carry, and it's a poem by Aiden called Pencil. You have the power to abuse my stress. You, not only a piece of wood, but a source of sociability. Small, sharp. Without your best friend, eraser, mistakes wouldn't be mistakes, but permanent. Giving whoever takes control the ability to write without your best friend, me, you would be in use. Pencil. I am the one sitting on your school desk, not alone but in your hand. I am born from trees of nature, cut down to the size of my friend pen. I am used now or later. Without getting held, I can't stand, with a point and no face. Not only do I write, but I do erase. I'm not always perfect, but I try my best. I want you to see life more clear so you don't stress your head, eyes squinting, headaches, blurriness. I'm tired of it all. I don't have enemies, but I guard your eyeballs. Keep me with you, just keep me with you, and you will see that there's blurs in lights without me.
in the wild wood. Tonight, these woods become waves, and I am the fossil in the stone of an ancient knowing. We seek the darkness of the cave, what it knows, what it believes, its truth. Deep in the wild forest, we find the gold of Cortez, lost gospels of wayward disciples, the corpse flower in perpetual bloom. We find our reflection in quiet, unsuspecting ponds.
I wrote this poem for my son when he was 2 years old. To my son. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. My son, it is cliché to say my world revolves around you, but let this be a reminder of the fire you sparked in my life. Similar to the solar, this flare cannot be compared because you create silhouettes with your echoes of your presence, my son. Your brilliance is happening because you are the reason for this growth, this blooming from a boy to a man, converting your light into understanding, psychological photosynthesis. It is cliché to say that you are the center of my galaxy, but my love for you is dense, and you may never comprehend the capacity of sacrifice that I would endure to make you feel secure, safe, understood. And don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Possess no hesitation in your radiance. Glow unapologetically. Be fluorescent in your vitality, my son. Learn from your mistakes. Take each failure as a stepping stone. Build pyramids out of your defeats and pathways out of your victories. And no, adversity is not your enemy. Do not get discouraged, my son. When life hits dusk, trust that your degree is nova, super, you will prosper, and always remember that you are shadowless, even in an eclipse, only relative to a certain perspective, and I am proud to be amongst the brilliance that is your development, evidence of divinity, your 2-year-old eyes, pupils comprehending universal law. You are elegant, the way you selflessly brighten other people's day, naturally warming hearts of strangers. You see, because your gravity is what keeps me centered, keeps me stable. Without you, I would be drifting endlessly in a void of space, no purpose, because you have changed the projection of my orbit. Now this revolution has meaning. My son, you are the reason for this evolution. And one day you will expand, and I will be absorbed into your brilliance. A metaphor not only for a legacy to live on, but for how much I am willing to sacrifice, how much I am willing to give to you to show you the magnitude of your existence. So this is for you, my son. May you always feel the warmth of my love.
Hi, everyone. The second poem I'll read is called Poem on the Inside, and it's by Carrie Fountain from her new book, The Life. And I just picked up the book, and I think you would enjoy it. So I want to read a poem from the collection. Poem on the Inside. Writing in the silent part of the morning, before the baby and his toys wake up and begin their strange chatter, the lawnmower's insipid giggle, the cell phone's hello and goodbye. The only sound now is that of the cat licking his fur behind me on the bed. In the short time after we bought this house, but before we moved into it, I'll sometimes drive by. I'll stop. I'll park in the carport, then sneak around back, and I'll squint into the windows, almost certain I knew what our lives would be like once we lived inside.
Quarantine is a dragon sleeping round my house, snuggled into a perfect circle, snoring and protecting the treasure inside. One woman, one boy, 2 cats. Quarantine's scales are rigid and hard, but together they move smooth like machinery, obeying the blazing engine within. Quarantine feels solid, heavy, like the door I lock at night to keep us safe inside. Quarantine smells like smoke, rising up from a burning candle I lit 3 days ago. Quarantine sings in the morning with the birds and grumbles with the cats, who beg for extra food because I'm always home now. I get tired of feeding Quarantine and request for help with the dishes. I feel impatient and ask once again, "Now how long are you planning to stay?" But in the moonlight, I admire its shiny steel tail, and I'm grateful. Everyone in this tiny house sleeps in health. Quarantine has done the job for one more day, and so I enjoy the sweet taste of home and offer Quarantine yet another snack. The boy and the cats all join and watch the fireflies. Quarantine turns to look at us and then asks, "Wait, did you wash your hands?"
In solidarity with the brave people of the Ukraine, I've selected a poem by Ludmila Kershanska. That's L-U-Y-D-M-Y-L-A. Ludmila, K-H-E-R-O-N-E-R-S-O-N-S-K-A. Ludmila Kershanska. Her poem is "The Whole Soldier Doesn't Suffer." The whole soldier doesn't suffer. It's just the legs, the arms, just blowing snow, just meager rain. The whole soldier shrugs off hurt. It's just missile systems, hail and beach, just bullets on the wing, just happiness ahead, just meteorological pogroms, Geoherostratos wannabes, just the girl with the pointer poking the map in the stomach, just thunder, lightning, just dreadful losses, just the day with a dented helmet, just God who doesn't protect.
So in 2019-ish, I went to go see Anita Baker do her farewell concert tour, and I wrote a poem for the experience that I had. It was such a beautiful concert. Yeah. Rob plays so beautiful, don't you agree? Angelic songstress, body and soul croons and rocks, Anita Baker. Fireworks ascending, scaled snow-capped mountain peaks, time-lapsed Houston skyline, water droplets off a soaked red rose, wind-blown desert sands, steep Icelandic terrains, tide bursting onto oceanfront, smoke dancing in front of an onyx backdrop, raging flames, coursing in a carousel. All of these scenes rushed on the screen behind the petite queen. Your voice heavy and deep. Your voice butter cream. Your soul incandescently leaped into every inch of the scenery, and I was taken with your sequin sparkle. I was dazzled and dazed. I was exalted as my hands raised into the air and we swayed with you. The pianist played with you. Decades full of greatest hits came from the arcade of your open mouth, feeding our famished memories. Our senses were full of you, our minds euphoric. You made our love fly free for old time's sake. You became the quake in the cavernous depths of our heart. 2 rows in front of me, I saw a man unexpectedly drop down to one knee. And she gave a teary-eyed yes. Loved ones swooped in as cranes descending flight, wingspans elongated to express congratulatory hugs. And Anita, your voice fit snugly into that moment. Your voice was the catalyst that sparked this proposal. You plugged your cries into the auditorium, a live fuse into our circuitry. And we were fully charged with you. Your songs ran through and through, from beginning to end, 365 ways. Anita Baker, soul shaker, sweet, sweet, sweet songstress. Yeah, we love you.
Hello. The poems that I read and write out in public are inspired by a lot of my students. I just finished I started my 9th year of serving as a judge for the San Antonio Public Library's Young Pegasus Poetry Contest for little kids and older students. And it's the longest running, ongoing contest for poetry for youth in the entire country. This is its 95th year. So I read a bunch of, like hundreds, thousands some years, poems by small little kids and older kids that just keep me having fun when I myself come back to writing poetry. And I wrote this as one of those pieces inspired by the cool and crazy words of youngsters in our city. I presented this at a Dia de los Muertos event here in town, and people loved it. I just thought it was a crazy piece. This is called El Cucuy is Gonna Get You. You're gonna hear these words even though they might upset you. El Cucuy is gonna get you. You ate all the cookies even though your parents didn't let you. Pues el cucuy is gonna get you. You were supposed to go to bed, but when they checked, you weren't where they set you. Oh, la cucuy is gonna get you. You didn't want to get in trouble, so you lied. Yes, I bet you. Pues el cucuy, he's gonna get you. You've been a butthead to your friends ever since they met you. El cucuy is gonna get you. No one else remembers all the bad things that you did, but there's a certain someone who won't forget you. It's El Cucuy, and he's gonna get you. You didn't get away with it, even though they didn't catch you. Yes, El Cucuy is gonna get you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Tilton Zertuche. This poem is by Kelly Morgan Taylor Greenwood. She was a poet here in San Antonio who unfortunately lost her life tragically very early on at the age of 21, but her legacy continues with her poems, and today I'm going to be reading one of her poems. This poem is called Dear Father. Dear Father, she dreams in odd places, mortified by strange faces. She walks in unsteady paces, and her jawline traces the places where beauty should lie. But lies are misleading, quite often defeating, and I am growing weary of this heart that should have already been filled. My own reflection makes me ill, and I use my confidence to conceal the way that I feel. My heart has been severed. Too many clever plots and daggers weren't the only weapons that pierce. No matter what a child has done, you should love them, hug them, give them ambition and a mission to succeed in life. I always had my hands in and out of places, searching for traces of a lost face and forgotten memories. Who knew blood was the strongest bond to my enemies? You weren't there for me when I needed you to be. It wasn't that I forgot you. It's that everyone important in my life was not you. You left me when I needed you most, but you would rather surf the West Coast than waste your time in my presence, and I will never understand why my own father didn't want me. It haunts me my every waking moment and almost always in my dreams. I am the abandoned child pushed out into the sea of baskets in the reeds. I should have been dead. And I don't know how many times I've wished it upon myself, death, D-E-A-T-H. I searched for the aid that could fade the pain. I let pills in. I let sticky green help me to find my identity. But he took me to his friends instead. Alcohol and blades with sharp ends. I sliced my skin, hoping there would be some way to drain him from my blood, hoping there was some way to chip away the DNA that linked him to me, my own kin, betrayed. I played pretend. I pretend that your lack of presence didn't bother me, but it consumed me. I stood rejected, feelings neglected. At 17, I would have given anything to have my father. Every time I tried to call you, it felt like you were bothered. I mean, you kept my brothers. What was wrong with me? Is there some sort of defect that I couldn't see? Because I've been trying to figure out, though I seriously doubt you know yourself. And you should be ashamed because I am perfect. Every graduation ceremony, meeting, show, competition, game, I wish you could have made, though your seat remained saved, it also remained empty. And I'm just so tired of waiting for you to want me. I know they say anything is possible, but why would I want to live without my father? I could be your daughter. There are 365 days in every single year that you should have been assuming your position. And I know it's been hard living, but the sky is blue and the sun is bright hot. So I'm just waiting for the day when you'll fill my want.
We hope you have enjoyed Mega Corazón in celebration of National Poetry Month. Don't forget, I am Rhymer, the poet, and I'm a little wacky, I'm a little weird, I'm a little strange, I'm a little loopy, and I'm okay with that. And speaking of loopy, in case you missed this, or if you want to tell your friends about it, don't forget that Mega Corazón is going to loop throughout National Poetry Month in April, every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. Keep on writing, keep on reading, live, read, write, become poetry.